they are. Maybe somebody knows where he's at and can poke him good.
Yeah, he's probably banging hipster chicks.
Banging hipster chicks.
Hipster chicks. There's a lot of
more than one. What's a hipster chick? I don't even know what a hipster chick is.
Hipsters. There's a lot of hipsters in the Lovecraft scene.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what a hipster is. I think I'm too old to know what a hipster is.
Hippie.
Well, it can't be a real hippie.
The actual definition is for hipster. Definition. I know a lot of them got mad under my Peter Levinda interview. They called us names and very mean. Oh, a person who follows the latest trends and fashions, especially those regarded as being outside the cultural mainstream.
Oh, okay. But that's not a hippie.
The hipster.
It's a hipster. And why did people get mad at you about Peter Levinda?
It was on YouTube, and I don't know. Beazle was with me. They were just complaining about everything. It was a long time ago. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. But I didn't realize there were so many comments on YouTube, and it's just all these like jackholes, like just mean. They just pick at everything, like vultures almost. There's a lot of people like in radio that are like that. All they do is complain about everything, even though everything's free. I'm not talking about anybody particular right now. I'm just talking about over the years. Like you can just, you know, when you read through comments, sometimes you get your good ones, but there's always, you know, a bunch of just jackholes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I just, you know. That's why I don't read comments. I don't even really read comments that have nothing to do with me, you know, because there's just so much garbage there. I mean, why? You know. Anyway, do you have any announcements, you know, like books you want to plug or?
I don't think so. No.
You have any books you want to plug? You always have books you want to plug.
Ran out.
You ran out of books? Jeffrey ran out of books. Oh, my God.
I have that Norse Shaman book I just got. You should check that out. I've already plugged it on the show with Jay, but... what's
it called? What's it called?
The Norse Shaman.
The Norse Shaman. Who's it by?
It's by Evelyn C. Risdick from Destiny Books. Inner Traditions, I guess. It's a Norse Shaman that just came out.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Good. I've written and interviewed her before, but I couldn't get her for the audio interview for some reason. But I've written interviews. She's got another book out on shamanism. I also have what was I going to say? Oh, a drumming CD from her. It's pretty good. She's not all, you know, there's not that much new agey going on. She's just like right there, boom, down your throat. Like she's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I like her, but you probably like her shaman book too. But the Norse
Shaman,
I'll
check it out.
The Norse Shaman, I just got it, and definitely gonna dive into it. For some reason, I've been slower reading lately. I don't know if I've regressed backwards into a Neanderthal man, but I used to read so much, but lately my attention span, like it took me 2 or 3 months to get through Stephen King's book. Usually I'd be done with it in a couple of weeks or something. Like something weird's going on. And everyone I talk to, like they don't read anymore. It's like there's something weird happening.
Well, you know, I mean, I read quite a bit, but I can kind of understand. I mean, I'm reading several things. I always read several things at once, and I've been distracted a lot too. And partly it's just because, you know, I decided to go ahead and teach a class, so I have just more stuff going on.
It's been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Mike did.
Hello? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. He's just trying to call the guest.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. But lately it's true. I've been kind of distracted too, and I know for me what it's been is that I have found reality, so incredibly painful that I've just been like, I've been watching more videos, and I've been watching funny stuff, like, you know, after Gene Wilder died, I bought like 5 Mel Brooks films that I always liked, but I'd never owned, you know.
Hey, hold on a second. Mike, are you
here?
Yes, I am. I apologize.
Oh, he is here. Okay. Excellent.
Oh, it's far here. I didn't think you answered. Well, I'm glad you're here. It's just I've been trying to get a hold of you, and you weren't on Skype at all, like you weren't lit up or anything.
No, I apologize. My entire family has strep, and on top of my regular illness, I completely dropped the ball for you guys. So I hope I haven't screwed up things too terribly.
No.
Well, you
okay?
You sound pretty hoarse. Are you okay?
Well, I'm in bed.
Well, relatively speaking, you know.
I'm in bed on a cell phone, so I'm not breaking bricks or anything, so I'll be okay.
Okay. All right.
So
well, maybe
I apologize for that, you guys.
It's okay.
Oh no, that's.
It happens for sure, man. If you're sick, we'll do a little while, and just let me know if you need to go. All right.
All right, that sounds great. So.
Okay. Well, we got Mike Davis here. So first off, is it Michael or Mike? Because I was putting Michael everywhere.
Well, you know, most people call me Mike. My wife calls me Michael, but most people call me Mike. So either one's fine.
I think I put Michael everywhere because I saw your Skype name and it was Michael. So later I was like, I looked and it's like everybody's calling him Mike everywhere because I looked on your little e-sign forum board and everything and saw.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. Yeah, at first I was pretty bummed, man. I was trying to think of a different title for the show, and I put "This is what we do when our guest ditches us." That was this new title.
No, like I said,
I'm glad showed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hope I haven't screwed things up too badly for you.
No, you're fine. We started late anyway, so we still got like an hour and a half to go. So I mean that's up to you, however long you want to do. But you showed up, so that's what counts. You're here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
I'm not going to bust up on you because you're sick, too, so I can understand. I know what it feels like to feel like crap. I do it often. One thing I wanted to say real quick. Today I saw Rob Zombie's new horror movie, 31, and I was really impressed with it. Like, his last few were kind of, like, they were so-so, but I loved House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, but 31, I really liked it. It had kind of a John Carpenter crazy vibe going with the music, and just it was kind of like The Running Man, but with crazy Satan clowns. And Malcolm McDowell is he's like some, I don't know what the hell, one of those aristocrat, British dudes with the white wigs and stuff, and they run this crazy, I guess like a game show. It was a trip.
I love Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, he's a great actor.
He was good in it for sure. You should check it out. Well, what originally got you started on Lovecraft down that dark road?
Well, do you mean as far as reading Lovecraft itself or the magazine?
But when did that start? When you were young, or?
Actually, most people answer that question with, my early teens. I started reading Lovecraft, and actually, though I did read a hell of a lot growing up, I never discovered Lovecraft really until, I don't know, probably my early 20s. And that's saying something because I didn't even have a TV growing up, so basically all I did was read. But still didn't run into Lovecraft until then. And, I knew of him, of course, kind of vaguely. And then I was reading, I don't remember what, and I saw this quote, I have seen what lies beneath, and it is not good to see. And I thought, well, that's a pretty neat line. I like that line. Where's that from? And of course, it's from Through the Gates of the Silver Key, and that one line got me started on Lovecraft. So.
Well, when it comes to horror, which I love, it takes a lot to scare me. It's like I've become kind of numb to it. But the Lovecraft stuff, there's just something about it that's unsettling. That's always been unsettling. There's just an otherworldly, weird darkness about it that it's always just giving me the heebie-jeebies. But I just let my dogs in, and I'm looking out my back porch in Florida, and that harvest full moon tonight, ooh, that joker's huge. It's big. It's gigantic out there tonight over the lake. But, so, I guess, what were some of your favorite stories to start? Do you enjoy all of his stories, or are there some that are just your absolute favorites?
No, not all. I don't really have one favorite, but several of my favorites are. I do, like the Call of Cthulhu a lot, because I think that story encapsulates a lot of, the essence of Lovecraftian themes. I'm a real big fan of The Shadow Out of Time and The Shadow over Innsmouth. Those are probably my three favorite. I do have one that I would say is an absolute favorite, but I don't really count it because it wasn't written by just Lovecraft. It was written by R.H. Barlow and Lovecraft, and that's the Night Ocean. So,
okay,
but that was my favorite.
I wasn't aware of that one. I'll have to. Where can you find that one at? Is it pretty hard to find, or?
No, you can read it online if you just Google the Night Ocean and Lovecraft. You'll run across it. And I would, I'm guessing that R.H. Barlow wrote most of it. I say I'm guessing. That's what the scholars think. People more in the know than I am, and that's probably right. So, like I said, I don't count it, but it's a very atmospheric, moody story about a guy he's an artist, he's a painter, and he enters a work of art into a contest, and he's been working on this art for months, and so he's just exhausted. So while he's waiting for the contest to be judged, he, in Florida, as a matter of fact, he rents he rents this bungalow right on the ocean. This lonely stretch of beach, about a mile away from this town. But he's right on the ocean, and to say any more would be to probably give too much away. But it's
called the Night Ocean. The Night Ocean, correct? Yeah. Yeah, you were bringing up images of Doom McKee from King there for a minute. I know Lovecraft influenced a ton, for sure, no doubt about it. But
not a lot of people bring up that Stephen King book too much. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that one was real good. I just finished End of Watch. It was pretty good. It took me forever to get through it for some reason. It took me months to read it, but I liked it. But I like every. I'm a sucker for every King book on some level. So what do you think about one of my keywords here about the Stephen King calling Trump Cthulhu? Which I'm not a fan
pretty
of
funny
Trump,
because
so it's not going to upset me.
Oh no, that's actually kind of funny because I posted a link to that on the Lovecraft Evening page, which has got coming up on 250,000 followers, and so I posted that the day or the after it came out. Just one of those little links that I post. I thought, okay, this is a fun little thing, and it was a really popular post. But then, about 5% of the people got upset about it, and because it was negative on Trump. But and so I ended up deleting it, which that's an extremely rare thing for me to do. But it's interesting to me because if it would have been Hillary or what's that other guy, Gary Johnson and Trump and the King had said the same thing about them, I would have posted it just the same. I just thought it was a funny thing to post, but people take their politics very, very seriously.
Yeah, I was more. I love King, and as far as the funny part was, I guess the Cthulhu presidential reaction from, I guess, the Twitter account or whatever it was. That was pretty funny. But I hold Cthulhu in more regard than I would Trump ever. So I mean. Oh,
absolutely! Don't insult the ancient one. I mean, come on.
I think, it's a bit insulting to Cthulhu. Do no wrong in my eyes, so nonetheless.
You're not the only one who said that.
With King, since I was I remember reading his books in freaking elementary school. He's been peddling this smut to me since like junior high. No, elementary school. That's before then. I remember it's like 6th grade, Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Wow.
I noticed even on that Twitter, on his Twitter feed, a few people responded to him. One guy says, you're better than this. And I thought, oh, come on, it's a joke. We got to be able to laugh at ourselves, no matter who we're supporting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's all just so ridiculous at this point anyway.
Yeah.
But I can see the
weird election, to be sure.
Trump coming up from the ocean and all the crazy followers flocking to him. I mean, I could see some of the, the metaphor for it. I mean, I could see all perspectives. For sure.
Yeah. And that's another theme in Lovecraftian fiction, the whole cult thing. And I mentioned not having a TV growing up. There's a good reason for that. My parents moved me and my sister to 1,000 miles to join this cult when I was 6, and I grew up there. And it's traumatic, but objectively speaking, very fascinating thing to the lengths that people will go to follow somebody charismatic. Or, like in the case of Lovecraftian fiction, there's the cult and the Call of Cthulhu and several other stories. So it's interesting.
Have you ever seen that quote from Lovecraft about Republicans?
It's not real. It's not true.
That's not real?
I don't think. No, it's not. It's a hoax.
Surprising.
Oh no.
It's a hoax.
You snoped it? I thought it was real. I've been talking about
No, it's a hoax. I'm pretty sure. I think I don't recall exactly like who said that, but I think if I remember right, he wasn't just saying that about Republicans. He's saying that about politicians generally.
Yeah. Oh, the quote's real.
And somebody like altered it to make it be about Republicans. I think he was talking about just politicians generally, or something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But I was disappointed too. I mean, yeah. I mean, they say all kinds of things. These memes anymore.
One thing this election has taught me is all of every side is crazy. Like, I was for Bernie originally, but right now it's hard for me to say I'm going to vote for Hillary. It's like my option right now is setting my ballot on fire in November, my absentee ballot. That's really one of my options. Like, I'm that in a conundrum about it. Like, I don't know who to vote for. I don't want to.
But what I'm telling people is that, if you can't bring yourself to vote for, like, a presidential candidate, I totally get it, but that's not all who you're supposed to vote for. You're also supposed, in a lot of places, you're supposed to vote for, like, your local and federal representatives, and who knows, those people may prove to be more important now than ever, like they used to be in the 19th century. In the 19th century, there were whole decades where literally the man on the street because they took polls then too, like in the 1840s, and they would poll people in the streets, and people didn't know who the president was, but they knew
right.
who their congressman was, and regardless of who gets into the office, if you've got a good Congress that can stand up to them, that really matters, and that may matter more now. So it's like, don't start the ballot on fire. Figure out a good set who your Congress people are and vote for them.
That's a good point.
I mean, screw. I mean, I understand entirely why people are like, screw the presidency, because it's. I mean, just the contest that we have now is so horrible. But that's not all that there is to it. So, it's.
We'll see what transpires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike, Autumn Cthulhu, is this your first book that you put out, or you put out some other ones before this from Lovecraft Design? Is this your first comic?
It's the first book I've edited. I've published several others before. One of the first, if not the first, was a book called The Sea of Ash, written by a writer by the name of Scott Thomas. And it had been published, I don't know, I think 5 or 10 years previously to when I had published it in 2013 or 14. But a very, very small press, very limited number of people had read it. I mean, I'm sure fewer than 50 people had read the book. And Scott gave me a copy at the 2013 Necronomicon convention. And I read it on the plane going home, and I was just blown away. And, like I said, and I'm sure you guys do too, I read a lot, but this was just some fascinating cosmic horror, magical writing. And I just had to get it in front of a wider audience. And I'd been, planning on expanding Lovecraft Easing into a small press as well. And so that was one of the first books. So
is it still available?
Yeah, absolutely. All you got to do is go to Amazon and type in The Seat of Ash.
The Seat of Ash?
No, it's C. I was about to say, I'll bet my cold's not making me...
Oh, that's okay. The Sea of Ash. Okay, so...
Yeah, The Sea of Ash. C is an ocean,
okay.
and Ash
I'll look it up.
A-S-H.
I'll look it up.
And it's available on Kindle and print. And I definitely learned some lessons afterwards, but I think also that I did a pretty good job, all things considered, and I've really gotten to throw a lot of people, and I'm really glad, because it's a wonderful story, and Scott deserves 100% of the credit for that. And go to Amazon and just look at some of the reviews for that book, and you'll probably plunk down a few bucks to buy it. But anyway, I'm sorry, I tend to wax on about that book because it's such a wonderful book. But that's why I published it. I published that. I published, like you said, Autumn Cthulhu, but that's the first one I've edited. Nightmare's Disciple, by a writer named Joe Pulver. Several others. If you go to Lovecraft Easing's website, lovecrafteasing.com, and you click on one of the tabs at the top, Easing Books, then I list them there.
What are you working on for the future? Anything you're working on now?
Yeah, the next book that's going to come out is called Whispers, and it's inspired by The Whisperer in Darkness by H.P. Lovecraft, of course.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite story. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
My favorite.
A great story.
What do you think about?
A writer by the name of Kristen Dearborn wrote that. It's a novella. So.
What do you think about that movie, Mike?
Oh, I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't bad. I can't remember who did it, but it was pretty good. For Lovecraft...
Lovecraft is more exciting.
Yeah, when it comes to Lovecraft stuff, like, there are some really good movies and stuff, but sometimes there are a lot of bad ones, too. They did a good job. And the Stuart Gordon stuff is definitely my favorite. I love any Stuart Gordon Lovecraft stuff. Sign me up.
Yeah, I personally didn't care for Reanimator, but I really like Dagon.
Is Stuart Gordon still alive? I think he is.
Yeah, he is. He's going to be at the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival in Portland, Oregon, this October.
Nice. That God, he's got to be. I don't know how old he is now. 60s probably, or who knows? But
something like that.
Been around.
Yeah, I met him a couple years ago when he screened Dagon for some of us at a previous film festival, and I not that he would remember me, he wouldn't, but he's a very nice guy. So,
is there any films or TV shows or anything in production that are coming out in the future that you know of? It seems like Lovecraft's always on short supply. You hear rumors and stuff, but then after that, it's like I knew there. Guillermo del Toro, I always mess up his name, but was going to do Mountains of Madness, and then I know that flunked through. But have you heard anything else about anything in production, TV show or movie-wise that might be decent?
I can't remember which company it was, but I did hear a couple of months ago that there's going to be a TV series based on some of Lovecraft's stories. Anybody listening, I just have to apologize that I can't remember and just Google that. But that's all I know. And that was seemed serious enough to me that I wrote the studio.
I know something.
You know what? It was Legendary. That's who it is. It's Legendary. I tried to find out more, but I haven't heard back from them. So.
That's the name of the show, Legendary?
No, that's the company. That's the film
Legendary.
studio, I think. He's doing it. Yeah.
I know I've seen a few games that are coming out that look pretty badass. I can't think of their names for crap right now, but there's some pretty interesting ones. There's one that's very XCOM-ish. I remember seeing that one on Steam, but for the life of me, I can't remember. And there's another one that's kind of like an open world kind of thing that looks pretty good.
Yeah, there are several coming up. There's one coming up that's actually going to be directly based on the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. So this is going to be some kind of video game adaptation of that.
Nice.
And it looks really good. I do have a somewhat complete list, again, at the website. And speaking of movies, those two, like I said, those top links at the website, one of them is Lovecraftian movies, and another one's a list of Lovecraftian games. And I'm not trying to be the final word on either of those things, but it's just sort of my entry into the conversation. But you'll find a nice list of Lovecraftian themed movies there. So and a list of games, and I link to if it's a PC game, I link to it on Steam and so forth. So.
Joe's saying my phone's real low. Does I sound low?
You sound fine.
Who knows?
I can hear you.
Messing with me. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. We got Mike Davis here with us tonight. And we're just going to keep going through into the second hour. What about that Mountains of Madness? Am I saying that? Then there's some kind of web series or something. Is that any good?
Well, it's actually I'm the exclusive platform for that, so hopefully it's good.
Okay, I knew I saw it at your site. Damn it.
Yeah, they released. Now I don't have any control whatsoever on the content or anything to do creatively with it. I basically give my advice, and they say, okay, thanks, and do what they want. But they released the first episode for free, and then people can subscribe to see future episodes. So we'll see. It's an interesting model that they've come up with, and we'll see if it's successful or not. So,
I know one thing.
Hopefully it will be.
One thing I wanted to ask you about your perspective on. We've had a lot of people on about the Necronomicon as a magical, system. Like they're dead serious about it. Peter Levenda, who supposedly was part of the collective that wrote the paperback Simon book, he's been on. Don Webb, we've had him on. What do you think about all that as far as people that actually use that book for a magical system? Like, really?
Well, I wasn't aware Don Webb felt that way, but, the only real way to truth is through the scientific method. I mean, in my opinion, anyone can feel free to disagree with me, but, so you can say that Santa Claus is real, or the Easter Bunny, or God, or the Necronomicon, as a magical system, or whatever, and that's fine as long as you have some evidence to back it up. Then I take it seriously. If there's no evidence to back it up, then I don't make light of it, but neither do I give it much thought beyond that,
Well, everybody's welcome to their own perspective, of course. I don't know if you always sound like Philip Seymour Hoffman when you talk, or it's just because you're sick, but it's like Philip Seymour Hoffman talking about Lovecraft tonight.
Well, I'm told that's a pretty deep voice regardless, so. But I'm sure it's deeper. That's weird that you said that, because that's exactly what I was going for when I called. So.
Oh, that's funny.
No, that's a joke.
I do technical sometimes. When I'm on whiskey, I do it a lot better.
Gosh.
I'm not on whiskey tonight, unfortunately. But is there been any talk of resurrecting that Del Toro's movie, or is that pretty much in the mud?
Oh, there's always talk, but that's really all I've seen. Anytime you mention any movie, Lovecraft fans go insane and bring up Del Toro's name, and I'm sure he would do a great job. But the thing is, he's not the only one who would.
Yeah.
There are other directors that would.
It's like he takes on too much stuff at one time.
Yeah, and he's a huge Lovecraft fan, and that's another reason why I think the fans would be crazy about it. But, he's put out some great movies, but he's also put out some duds. So, it could be hit or miss. But no, there's nothing that I've seen out there that's anywhere near indicating that that's going to happen. And I think, sorry, what was that? My mind just went blank. That movie a couple of years ago that was a little bit like At the Mountains of Madness in Space, the sequel to Aliens.
Oh,
or the prequel. Prometheus. Yeah. A couple times, and said, well, basically they did it in a way. So.
You ever hear any inside stuff on the Robert Howard, the Conan guy, and Lovecraft's correspondence? I know I never knew they had correspondence until I saw that movie. I think it's called Whole Wide World with Vincent D'Onofrio as Robert Howard and Renee Zellweger. But anyway, in it there's correspondence between him and Lovecraft. Is that a historical fact? Did that actually happen? Do you know, or know any more about that?
No, I wouldn't. S.T. Joshi would be the guy to ask about that. He's pretty knowledgeable about that stuff.
I'll have to put him on my list for sure. I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Well, Wham.
Sorry.
Wham, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Mike, why don't you? What I'm interested in is, okay, you developed this interest in Lovecraft, in your early 20s, you said, approximately?
Right.
What sequence of events led you to begin the e-zine and the online magazine, essentially, and led you into actually having an interest in publishing Lovecraftian-like fiction? Because that's like a pretty big venture, you know. Not everybody can parlay their interest into something like that.
Yeah, the Lovecraft e-zine definitely took on. It's a much bigger project or a series of projects than when I began. But to answer your question, I was in real estate for about 15 years, and I was reading Lovecraftian fiction and other fiction the entire time, of course. And then about 10 years ago, I won't bore you with the details, but I was hospitalized, and I came down with a really painful, continuing chronic illness. So the reason why I bring that up is because, as a result, after a couple of years, I began to see that I just couldn't stay in business in real estate. I just physically couldn't do it. And, that took a toll on finances and of course, and so forth. And so my wife and I decided to move down to Texas because her sister lives down here, and she had a job offer. And so the plan was she would do that, and I would stay home and take it easy, and try to at least somewhat feel better. Well, instead what I did was I thought, well, I've got this free time on my hands, and I've been thinking about doing this for a while, so I think I'm going to do that. So, and the reason why I did it in the first place was, I'm reading all this cosmic horror, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was an online magazine that offered stories every bit as good as this quality of story, but was free to read? That'd be kind of a cool thing. And I looked around, I couldn't find one. So I thought, well, I'll just do it. So that's how it started.
Well, and I read, I got the Autumn Cthulhu, because that to me is, that's when I don't read horror fiction quite as constantly as Jeffrey does, but it always does seem that when I turn towards horror, it is around in the autumn when I do that. And I live in upstate New York, so we have autumns, like you wouldn't believe. And I remember reading in your introduction in this book how you had, when you were younger, you'd moved from Texas up to Iowa, up to the Midwest, where you first experienced autumn in Halloween in an autumn-like way. So when you had to move back down to Texas, right?
Right.
Are you still in Texas? Right. Are you still in Texas now?
Yeah, we're going to stay here in least until my son gets out of high school, which is another 4 years.
Right. So,
yes,
do you fight
autumn in
You
Iowa?
miss them. Yeah, and so this might be a way also for you to sort of recapture some of that feeling, because I don't know about you, but living around in the New England area now. I didn't grow up here, but I did grow up in a place where we did have autumn too. It was just a little bit different. It really captures, the season here is very much like his atmosphere. So
it really is, and I've got so many memories of fall in Iowa. Even as a kid, the one good thing that I had was books, and I remember many times walking to the library, a mile or two from my home to the library to get a bunch of books and cram in a bag and walk home, and many times doing that in the fall, and the leaves coming down, and a soft rain, that sort of thing, and that made a huge impression on me. And as well as that first Halloween that I mentioned in the introduction to Autumn Cthulhu.
Right.
Well,
so, and it also reminds me of even though the movie of this is kind of cheesy, it does capture some of the atmosphere that Ray Bradbury story, Something Wicked This Way Comes, because that happens in the autumn too. So there is a kind of, and around here there's this whole mist fog thing that happens because I'm right by the Hudson River. So when it starts getting really cold, like because it happens really suddenly a lot of times, the river will still be warm, and this really bizarre, funny fog will will literally crawl out of the banks of like in tendrils, out of the river towards the land, and it's really creepy. It's really creepy. I mean, you have to see it to believe it. When you go over, like in the mornings when I'm going to work, I'll commute and I'll go over a bridge, go over the Hudson, and you look down and you can't see the water. You just see this mist that has these like tendrils, like tentacles coming out of it into the land masses. It's very, very weird. And sometimes if the sun is up, it'll like hit that fog and make it all like golden and these weird colors. It's really astonishing. So I've been enjoying the book, by the way. A lot of the writing is really good.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think people like you and me who have been, we've been captured by that autumn spirit and that autumn feel, not just the time of year, but the time of year up north with the leaves and the color and the fog and the rain and the mist. It's hard to ever go back to, a place like Texas, just to use my example. I mean, we're here for a good reason, but you don't get that same atmosphere, and I really miss it. So yeah, part of that was definitely with Autumn Cthulhu was capturing some of that. So
yeah, trying to capture that, because I think as you were talking, when you were talking about the what was it, that ocean story? No, the
Night Ocean.
The Night Ocean. Yeah, when you were talking about that, it reminded me of one of the stories. For some reason, just your description, I haven't read it, but it reminded me of the story, The End of the Season in Autumn Cthulhu.
Yeah.
The one about the guy who it's happening around the Great Lakes, and the guy who, he lost his relationship, so he went to work in this summer place on this island, and that whole, towards the end of the summer, there's this get together that the islanders have.
Yeah.
And they and so he decides he's going to sort of crash that party, and at first you don't know exactly what's going on, and then you're like, oh, it's actually really well done.
It is, and the interesting thing is that a lot of people do bring up that story to me, and it's written by a guy named Trent Collage, and that's his first published story. And I think as a good editor, you should really try to do this. It's important to do. In Autumn Cthulhu, there's some pretty well-known names in the horror community. I'm not talking about Stephen King level, of course, but names like Laird Barron and a few others that have published a lot of stories, and for good reason, because they're incredible writers. And then you have 2 or 3 stories in that book who people don't know who they are yet, and this is the first time they've been published. But a good editor should introduce readers to new writers like that, and I think Trent did a hell of a job with that.
It's very good. I mean, it's just well paced, and it's and it really captures a lot of the really classic themes of Lovecraft. The kind of cultish quality. It's the quality of the cult, and the isolated people, the chanting, the songs, the thing that comes out of the sea, but that you don't really see it real clearly. You know, you more hear it. You know, and then and it was great. I mean, he even uses the technique of right at the point when the monster appears, he starts using these weird words. I can't even, you know, these words that you don't use in everyday speech. I mean, I know that they're real words, but to describe the way the monster sounds, or you know, it was great. It was like, this is, you know, he is really deeply imbibed this stuff. You know, whenever I read book stories like this, it makes me want to go off and try to write a story. I mean, I write other types of things, but it really makes me want to try. You know, just because it's so cool. Have you tried to write anything, or do you just publish and edit?
You know, I keep pretty busy with that and with a few other projects, and of course I had a wife and son, and they're number one above everything else. But I've had a story or two published, and I've got a novella coming out next year, so I'm looking forward to that. Is it on these
themes? Is it a Cthulhu? Is it Lovecraftian?
Well, it's Lovecraftian in the sense that there's some cosmic horror in it. My favorite type of, and I'm sure you know this from reading out of Cthulhu, my favorite type of Lovecraftian story is the more subtle story. It's more cosmic horror. It doesn't really necessarily name, you know, it's not about Cthulhu or, you know, any of the gods that Lovecraft created or his places necessarily. Right. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's not. But it's Lovecraftian in that sense, that it doesn't do that. So
right. I mean, like...
I don't want to say... Sorry?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't want to say too much about the plot, but I can say this. It's basically about a guy who's in his mid-30s, and he's a pizza delivery driver. And he's driving mostly at night, and, you know, he's not sure why a guy in his mid-30s would be doing that, you know, for a living with, that's all he wants to do. There's nothing wrong with doing that for a living, but that he doesn't, there's nothing else that he's doing. That's pretty much it. And the strange things that he sees at night sometimes, you know, on those deliveries, and story evolves out of that. So, and
wow, that sounds interesting already.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of fiction about detectives or, you know, police, or, you know, it's basically a cosmic horror / mystery story.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a different kind of character.
No, well, you'll have to let us know when you put it out.
I will. Hopefully, people will enjoy it. There's a publisher who's interested in publishing it, a publisher that I really respect. So hopefully that happens. But I'm sure it'll come out in one form or another, regardless.
So you're not necessarily going to publish it yourself. You're going to maybe let somebody else do it. That's cool.
Yeah, no, there are pluses and minuses to that. I mean, if I did publish it myself, you know, I keep 100% of the profits. But if somebody else publishes it, there's positives to that as well. So if you're a publisher yourself, it's something that you really need to weigh. A guy by the name of Matthew Bartlett, he's not a small press publisher, but he's a very, very, very good writer. And I believe it was last year. It's fairly recently. He published a book, self-published it. And it's just incredible writing. And he's a really good example of, anytime someone says to me, if you self-publish, it's automatically automatically going to be crap. That's not necessarily the case. There's
No, it's
certainly a hell of a lot of self-published crap out there, but there's some works of genius out there too that's self-published. I'm not talking about my book now. I'm talking about people like Matt Bartlett. So, and my brain is just too sick right now, and I'm interviewing the guy on Sunday, and I'm finishing the book, and I can't think of the title right now, but it's a good example.
It happens.
Right.
So, I will
so
remember the title of that interview.
So of the Autumn Cthulhu book, what is one? I mean, I talked about one of the stories in it. What's your favorite story in this collection?
That is a question that if I answer, I get in a lot of trouble. So.
Oh, give me a couple then. Give me like 2 or 3 notables.
All right, one of them is Damien Angelica Walters' story.
Okay.
The second one in there. And again, I'm having a little trouble in my brain tonight. I can't remember the title. But it's a very poignant, very moving story. And when she said to me,
in the spaces where you once lived.
Yes, thank you very much. In the spaces where you once lived. She sent it to me, and I read it on my phone while I was waiting for my son. I was picking him up from school, and I was in the line, waiting for him to come out of the school. And I was almost moved to tears reading it. That's just a very moving story. So that's one of them. Of course, I'm a big sucker for Scott Thomas. I published the first story of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Is The Night is the Sea by Scott Thomas, and that's actually in the same universe as The Sea of Ash. So I really enjoyed that one. Laird's story, Laird Barron, Andy Kaufman Creeping Through the Trees, is just a really strange title, strange story that absolutely works, right, in my opinion. And I really like them all. That's why I published them. But I will have to say also that I really loved Anchor by John Langan. It's more of a novella-sized story, somewhere in the middle of the book, but
right, I see that.
It's incredible. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed all the ones that I've read so far. And usually in a book of stories like this, I don't read them chronologically. I just sort of like start in the middle and read one, and then, that's how I usually read these kinds of books. So I've read several, and I really have enjoyed it so far. And that's nice, because sometimes when you get a collection, you really like some more than others a whole lot, but each one of these really has its specific merits so far. So.
Well, I really appreciate that. I'm really glad you're enjoying the book.
Yeah, I mean, I just got it like last week, so I haven't had an opportunity to get on Amazon yet and give it a review. So I'll do that.
Well, thanks. Those always help. They help more than people realize.
Well, they help to boot your book up. I know that. They encourage Amazon to front list it a little bit more. So
yeah, it was a project that I really enjoyed, and I think it turned out well.
Right. Well, I think that your second career is working out.
Well, thanks.
It's hard to do, to make that kind of a shift,
Well, it doesn't pay a whole hell of a lot, but I'm making a little money at it. That's not even, I never really thought I would. It wasn't even on my mind when I started. But now it has turned into a bit of a second career, and that's great. And there's so much. When I started, it was basically a magazine, and that was pretty much it. Online magazine. Now it's a magazine, and it's a small press, which is what we've been talking about the last 5 or 10 minutes. It's a podcast, a video cast on Sundays. It's a community. It's quite a few things. So. When I ask me what I do, I'm not sure how to answer the question.
Right. Well, I mean, it doesn't make probably a lot of money for you right now, like maybe what you made before, but there's also other things that you probably get out of it. You know, personal things. And
well, yeah, I made quite a bit of money in real estate, and I was one of those real estate agents that I looked at my job as helping people. You know, you're not selling anything. If someone wants to buy a house, they need someone who will guide them through the process. They don't need some used car salesman trying to talk them into something. And so I did feel like I was helping people, and it was fulfilling in that way. And, you know, certainly was nice financially, but, yeah, I'm much more fulfilled, I guess you say, and happier now doing what I'm doing and making a lot less than I was back then. So, you know, I get the chance to be far more creative, and I really enjoy that. And I've met some really, really great people over the last 5 years. So.
Well, I enjoy what you do, so, and I'm sure a lot of other people do too. So.
Me too.
Keep on.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, Mike, I guess how much longer do you want to do? Are you good for, the show ends at 9, but are you good for, let's say, 8:30, or do you want to go farther than that? It's up to you.
Depends on which time zone you're talking about.
I'm in Central, so I just
you're in Central.
Yeah, it's 8:19 here. The show ends at 9, so the show ends at 10 Eastern.
Yeah, I'm in Central Time as well, so I can do whatever you guys need me to do.
We'll just go up to the end. It's about another, 30 minutes or so?
Yeah. About 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Mike, what are some of your favorite Lovecraft movies? And then I want to get more into some of your taste about authors and everything.
You know, some of my favorite Lovecraftian movies aren't really, you know, it depends on what you mean by the question, because some of my favorites aren't really adaptations of Lovecraftian stories. If you're talking about adaptations, I really like Dagon a lot. I like The Call of Cthulhu by the Silent One by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society.
What was the first one you named? All right,
Dagon.
Oh, Dagon.
Dagon. You're going to Dagon. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. And Call of Cthulhu, you know, the silent movie. As far as cosmic horror, Lovecraftian themed films, again, I've got a list at the website, but just going on memory, one of the ones that always leaps to my mind first is Absentia. It's a great film. It's about a woman whose husband has gone missing, and he's been missing for 7 years, and he disappeared near or in this tunnel near their home. And that's probably all I should say about the plot, but it's a very, very, very creepy film.
I've seen it. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then you know what I'm talking about.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a good one for sure. Need to see that one again. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's by the same director that did Hush, Mike Flanagan.
Okay, is Hush about that deaf chick and the killer outside her house?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, he's a good director, and he did Oculus. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah. I've seen Oculus. It's
it's
pretty good.
That was weird.
I liked it personally.
I liked it. It was just weird.
Well, it's kind of surrealistic, and I kind of like that kind of thing. So.
Wow, you saw a movie. You do that.
For me, I do see movies. I just don't see as many as you. I mean, it's like, you know, I think that if Jeffrey could like just plug his head in, he would just do nothing but that and read. So.
All I do.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I don't have time to do that.
All all I do is watch movies, TV shows, play games, and read, and I work.
Right. Well, that is part of, and actually that is part of your work to some degree.
Kind of all intertwined.
Yeah.
Just what I do. But the problem is I used to work in retail and stand, and I used to be skinny, but now that I work at home, I'm like friggin' turning into Cthulhu belly-wise.
You got to get that working on those tentacles, man.
I can't even go outside because Zico get me. Zyko, whatever it's called.
Oh, Zyko?
Are you,
no,
Zika.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
No, are you self-employed?
Terrifying. I'm in the Panhandle of Mariana, but scientists just said that stuff can cause brain damage in adults. So
What can?
Zika.
Oh, okay.
Zika.
Well, it can, but it also, for adults, it can sometimes not do anything at all.
I think it's already got me.
You don't want to be damaged anymore, right?
I'm very phobic. Like, I have some agoraphobia, so just the fact that there's mosquitoes out there waiting to infect me with stuff that gives you brain damage, and then, if a woman's pregnant, what it does to the baby is just horrific. It's creepy. I need to move, but I can't. I'm too poor. It'll probably just follow me wherever I go, wherever it's going to spread everywhere anyway, probably. So, just we're at the start of it. So, and oh man, I mean, I go outside and give the cats water in the morning, and their dish was just filled with mosquito larvae, and I had to clean them out and all that stuff. It just freaked me out. Little larvae swimming around. It's like a horror movie down here. It was already with the bath salt zombies that eat your face. Now we got to worry about I Am Legend with the mosquitoes.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. In 4 years, I don't know where my wife and I will be, but we will be somewhere up north where there's fall.
Won't be in Florida.
I'm not moving to Florida.
I don't blame you. I'm originally from Georgia, and I got down here through a series of misfortunate events. Everybody thinks this place is paradise when you live in Georgia. Like, everybody comes here for spring break, the Panama City Beach. It's so beautiful. It's so great. But once you've lived here, it's hell on earth. It's the Amazon. And I just upset a lot of South Americans. I'm not kidding.
Well, since you live in Florida, you really need to look online and read The Night Ocean, because I think you'd enjoy it.
That out. I'm wondering if that influenced King too a little bit with Dune McKee, because for some reason I kept thinking about Dune McKee when you were telling that story. But
what I really enjoy about Dune McKee, besides the fact that it's Stephen King, is I've always enjoyed stories about broken people and what they do about it and what happens to them and of course Dune McKee is about this guy who's in a horrific accident at work and loses an arm and suffers a bit of brain damage and so forth, so he moves temporarily to one of the isolated Florida keys, fictional key, I'm assuming. But it's not a story that, like I said earlier, that a lot of Stephen King fans tend to bring up, but it's one of my personal favorites.
I liked it. I'm surprised they haven't slammed it into a movie yet. They sure do have a lot of. I haven't seen Cell yet, but the reviews for Cell are terrible. He sure has a lot of hit or miss with films, that's for sure. And TV, he could have some better ones with that.
Well, his book. He had a novel out about 2 years ago. I hope you guys can remember the name because I'm blanking on it right now. That was very Lovecraftian. Wish I could remember the name of it. I've even talked about it on my show before. I beg your pardon?
Dome?
No, it's not Under the Dome. It's
I've read it, I'm sure. Or was it the short stories, or it was an actual book?
No, it was a novel. But I guess I guess people can Google it. This way, have it when you're sick and try to use your brain. But it's just one of his more Lovecraftian novels.
I gotta look it up now. My God, man.
Yeah, and
I know I've read it.
Yeah, he's pretty heavily influenced by Lovecraft. A lot of his short stories, so many of his short stories have some Lovecraftian themes in them. I keep bringing up my podcast, but we've been doing it for several years now, so we've covered a lot of things. And one of the things. What's that?
Plug away, buddy. We don't mind.
Yeah.
We have the show. One of the shows was on Stephen King's Lovecraftian stories, and the page is still there if you Google that and Lovecraft Easing. But I actually list a bunch of Stephen King short stories and some of the novels that either were Lovecraftian or had some heavy Lovecraftian themes. So.
Was it Revival?
Revival, thank you. I was going to go nuts.
The Frankenstein one.
In a way, yeah. And I don't want to talk about the ending because obviously you can't say one word about that, or you're ruining someone's the spoiler, and you're ruining somebody's reading experience. But
they're going to movie it. They're already working on moving it.
Well, if there's going to be a movie based on Revival, that's one of the most horrific endings in a book, and it'd be interesting to see how they would do that on film, or even if they would. Something tells me they wouldn't. Something tells me they'd give it the Hollywood ending.
I'm trying to write horror fiction. I have a bunch of books out there, like written interviews with people from UFOs and Bigfoot and stuff I did with Andrew Colvin, but I'm trying to move into my next phase, which is, I'm thinking young adult horror or something. I don't know. We'll just see what happens when I write it. But my biggest thing is, it's like I have the imagination and all that. It's just I deal with a lot of editing problems.
Well, yeah, that's where you have an editor to help you, Jeffrey. I mean, that's one of the good things about getting someone else to publish your book, is that you can actually work with someone else to help you with that.
Self-esteem issues with that I'm working on. But that's my next phase, horror. I've always loved horror, so that's what I'm trying to do next. Another author I like a lot, Anne Rice. She's having a little bit of a comeback with the Lestat stuff a little bit, but it was all right. But she has a new one coming out called, which the title kind of surprised me, Lestat and the Realms of Atlantis. So I was like, what the hell? So I'm looking forward to those. I've always liked her a lot, too. Trying to get into Clive Barker more. I've read some of his stuff, but I need to read it more. I just saw Hellraiser again for the first time, I hadn't seen it in a long time, and those are pretty Lovecraftian, aren't they? You think? I was thinking about that when I was watching the first one, the box and summoning otherworldly creatures. There's a lot of Lovecraft influence there with Barker, too, don't you think?
Yeah, I'd say so, except it has been so many years since I've seen Hellraiser. It's hard to even remember.
It's pretty. Yeah. It's a classic. There's no doubt about that. It's excellent, and it's creepy as hell.
Oh.
But
definitely. I was hearing some fizzle. Is everybody still there? Audio?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep.
I jumped on the computer real quick, and for some reason it's being a butt with my phone. So now I'm going to walk away. I had to order the Sea of Ash. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't say enough about that story, and we actually just did a audiobook version of that. It's on Audible.
Nice.
So read by Lehman Kessler. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he does a show on YouTube called Ask Lovecraft. So it's a comedic show.
Uh-huh.
So, but he's an actor. He did an absolutely wonderful job. So anybody out there listening who's an audiobook person, you can pick up the Sea of Ash on audiobook too. So, and here's the thing. I'm not going to get, and Scott and any of the other authors that I publish, we're not going to get rich. It's not going to make us or break us if you buy or don't buy. But money is great. Don't get me wrong. We can always use more money, and all of us, I think, and I definitely could. My wife's a school teacher, and I do this. But I just feel so strongly about that story. I just want the whole world to read it. I think it's a great story. So.
Well, it looks. I mean, I looked at the blurb on it, and I thought, wow, that sounds completely fascinating. I mean, it sounds like. It sounds sort of like. I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with the soap of the late 60s and 70s, Dark Shadows, but
yeah, somewhat.
But in the latter part of, it went through, the show went through several iterations in its own plot line, and some of those plot lines were better than others. But
right.
the last part of the show, when it was kind of at its peak, it was doing this really interesting kind of Lovecraftian thing about. I mean, it had already introduced a kind of Lovecraftian extraterrestrial species at one point, and then it kind of left that because it got too weird, and then they revisited it a little bit with some refinements, and what ends up happening now, and I'm just kind of this was something that's like a blast from my past when I was a kid. My parents wouldn't let me watch it because it was too weird at the time. But so I've been going back, and now I can, I can watch it. So I've been going through. I'm like on. There's like, I don't know, 1,248 episodes, and I'm on like episode 1077 or something. But it's crazy. But it is really interesting. This last bit, it's all about these different. They use the same actors. And these actors are playing different characters in different times, and not only different times, but like parallel universes. And so you have to sort of keep track of like when they're in 1995 and when they're in 1970, and when they're in 1970, but in the parallel universe. It's like, and there's like this evil presence that is trying to make its way into all of these worlds that Collinwood is in, because for some reason it's decided it wants to invade the world through the Collins family. I mean, who the hell knows why?
Yeah,
right?
I've heard something like this. I haven't seen it much, but I've heard something like what you're talking about.
But it's pretty. There are times when it's. I mean, there are times when it's stupid, and there are times when, obviously, since it was filmed live, and this is when it's really funny. Like the guy who's doing the props gets the wrong signal and does a prop at the wrong time, and they can't help it because it's live. They can't go back and edit it. So there are some funny mistakes that happen that are kind of hilarious. And not everybody can act really well. But there are times when it's really kind of creepy. I mean, it's like they do manage to sort of capture that sort of, and you just kind of, I mean, I remember there was this one like cliffhanger moment just a couple, like 2 or 3 episodes ago that was kind of unexpected, but you could sort of see it coming, and you're like, there's this part of you, it's like, oh no, that can't happen. Then when it does, you're just, I mean, I just sort of jumped out of the bed. I was watching it in my bed, just jumped out of the bed, and then you think to yourself, this is ridiculous. This is a dumb show, but it's just that. that ability to kind of grab an atmosphere and just, you know, twist you a little bit. You know, it's just taking regular, normal stuff and just kind of making you just believe just for a minute, you know, that the world is, like there's this evil thing in the world, like that.
Yeah, the world is
very, it's just really good. It's really fun. I'm not necessarily recommending that you go through all like 1,200 episodes, you know, but, you know, to find these few pristine moments, but it's so that kind of what you guys were talking about was reminding me of all of the different time stuff, and then the sea, when I was reading the blurb about the Sea of Ash, it sounds kind of like that.
Well, if that's what you like, I think you'll enjoy it. And, you know, I never want to be one of those publishers who, you know, publish. I'm going for quality, not quantity. So
right.
If I'd rather publish one book a year and it be something like that, than to publish 10 and then, you know, some of them are good, some of them aren't. But these are books that, you know, the reason why I published it, I want to get in front of people. So I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, I will. I'm sure I will.
So what do you think about, for instance, I've always had an interest in horror, and obviously you do, and many people do, but do you think that interest has something to do with trying to escape, like, the horrors of the real world, like, psychologically? Like, I guess I prefer fiction horrors to the real horrors. I think I use it kind of as an escape mechanism of some sort. Like, it seems easier to digest fiction horror. Like, I've always kind of used it as an escape, I guess, on some level from the real, you know, realities of the world we live in. I'm just kind of curious, do you think that's why a lot of people are into horror and Lovecraft? Is that part of it?
Well, I think so. And it depends on what kind of horror you're talking about. You know, it can be a lot of things. A lot of fiction is classified as horror. That is, I would describe more as dark fantasy. You know, like Anne Rice's stuff. I would describe more as it's dark fiction. It's dark fantasy fiction. It's not necessarily horrific, you know, or scary, you might say.
Well, some of the horror movies nowadays are hard for me to watch. Like, they're just over the top. Like, it's a little too much. Like, I collect a lot of rare horror gems from, like, the 80s and stuff, like hard to find stuff. Like, I find myself liking that stuff a lot more than, you know, like some of these over-the-top horror movies that are just so graphic and realistic, it's almost too much on some level. I guess that's the point. I guess I don't like that stuff as much as I do, like the Lovecraftian stuff, you know, Stuart Gordon stuff and stuff like that. Like, there's different... 31 was kind of over the top today, but it was still good. It was kind of like the Satanic Running Man. That's the way he described 31. Rob Zombie's 31. It reminded me of the Running Man a lot, but like I said, definitely over the top with the gore. Not that bad, but I've seen worse for sure. What's that movie, Inside? Like, stuff like that. It's just over the top. They're good, but it's just Martyrs. That's another one. That one's good, but it's over the top.
When you say over the top, are you talking about violence?
Yeah, I'm just talking about it's so violent, it's just almost hard to watch for me. It's nauseating.
Yeah.
It's too real.
Well, to me, horror is not necessarily violent at all. You know,
right.
I mean, not in any overt way. I mean, because that can just become sort of a weird maudlin kind of thing. You know, it's, I mean, to me, what makes the classic horror stories really classic is that, you know, for example, in Dracula, you never really see the monster. You know, the monster is described in different ways by different people, but you never really see it exactly. You know, like coming at it from different places, and and that's the best of Lovecraft is like that too. You know, like that when that great one I think one of his great stories is, you know, The Color of Darkness, and because it's not really possible to describe what he's getting at exactly. You know, you never really see it really, but it's just
right.
this kind of force that it, even in an odd way, could be kind of beautiful, but it's causing these really grotesque things to happen.
I need creatures, damn it.
You need creatures?
Creatures.
Well, the creatures are fine too, but I'm just saying, you know, it's like, that's different than just like wanton violence.
Yeah, some of it's just too much. But, what was in that new 31 Rob Zombie movie, there's one of the killers models himself kind of after Nosferatu, which is pretty interesting.
Oh.
He kind of looks like Nosferatu, painting himself up like Nosferatu, and even wears the weird black. That was pretty interesting. You know, he was like one of the main psycho killers. Kind of modeled himself after Nosferatu in that movie. It was definitely interesting, for sure. No doubt about it.
Like an undead kind of guy, you mean? Like a vampire?
Well, he was more of a psycho killer that just kind of, like he was watching Nosferatu and then he dressed up and painted his face.
Oh, I see.
Nosferatu. So he was a real dude, I guess, but I don't think there was anything supernatural about him, but he was psycho. It's kind of like, there's like this busload of, I guess they're kind of hippie-ish, and then they get pulled over, and then they get dragged into this weird, crazy psycho game show hosted by Malcolm McDowell, and he's like one of those aristocrat, you know, British dudes, and there's all these women like that dressed in the dresses with all those wigs and stuff, and then they get put into this crazy, you know, I don't know what it is, like a warehouse filled with crazy characters that want to kill you. Clowns, the Nosferatu guy. There's a Swedish couple named Sex and Death. Like, they have to fight all these different people.
Mm.
It's definitely good. I could watch it again. That's for sure. What are some of your favorite horror movies? Just like regular, good old-fashioned horror, Mike?
Oh, gosh.
Good old-fashioned horror.
You know, I like Salem's Lot, the older one. You know, one from the 70s. I like that one. I like The Fog, 1980. John Carpenter's The Fog.
Nice.
Really love the way that movie begins, too. You know, it's a quote from Edgar Allan Poe. And that piano music comes on, and it's a great movie.
You can't go wrong with Carpenter. I've always loved John Carpenter.
Yeah, TV horror. I don't know that it's especially scary. None of these, but I like Supernatural a lot. I like Angel. You know, I was a big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Supernatural's coming up on its 12th season, so it's a pretty long-running show.
Did you check out Stranger Things?
Yeah, I did. Everyone's pretty crazy about it. I personally didn't. I liked it, but I thought they stretched out the idea for a 2-hour movie into what was it, 6 or 8 episodes?
That was like 8 episodes, I think.
Yeah, it was 8. I think it was 8 or 9. Yeah.
We have.
It felt very stretched out to me.
Yeah. We have a guy, Christopher Garantano, who did Montauk Chronicles, coming on next Friday about Montauk. You know, the whole Montauk situation, which is originally what Stranger Things was going to be called, was Montauk. So they definitely got a lot of those ideas from the Montauk story. Going to have him on next Friday. Should be interesting for sure. We've had Peter Moon on before, which is he wrote a book on Montauk, one of the original cats, so to speak. What about horror shows? They have some pretty wild horror show. I know they're rebooting Tales from the Crypt. I hope that's good. M. Night Shyamalan is doing it, which could cause some concern, but we'll see what happens with that. But definitely, I'm interested to see what the Lovecraft that's some Legendary, what that's going to be. I could have sworn, I think I've read about that somewhere. I was glad.
Yeah, there was a press release a couple of months ago about it. So, but that's pretty much all anybody knows right now, I think. So hopefully it'll be good.
The Friday the 13th show was canceled by CW. That could have been terrible.
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, there was going to be a Friday the 13th show with the negotiations with CW. I can't watch anything on CW. I know there's a couple of good things on there, maybe like Flash or something, but I can't watch anything on there. But I was glad. I celebrated that Friday the 13th was canceled from CW. But for sure, that would have been terrible, probably. But let me see. Lovecraft. There's some Lovecraft comic that I could have sworn I read someone was going to do, like Spielberg or... No, I know, Ron Howard. Something to do with Lovecraft and Ron Howard. Does that ring a bell?
Ron Howard was doing a Lovecraft comic?
Let me look it up. I may be delusional, but I could have sworn. There's some comic book.
I know...
Yep. It's true. There's some talk here. Ron Howard talks The Strange Adventures of H.P. Lovecraft. I don't know if it's still happening or not, but there's something from Screen Rant about it.
Huh. I'll have to look that up. I know they just did Providence.
There's an MTV.com something about it, too. Yeah, there's a few things, but not much. What is Providence?
I don't know. I haven't read it. I've just heard about it. That's a recent comic.
What is that, like a show or something?
No, it's just a Lovecraftian comic is all I know.
Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. Well, we're coming up on about 5 more minutes. You go ahead and plug your site, and we're going to close this joker out.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's just, people can Google Lovecraft E-Zine, E-Z-I-N-E, or just lovecraftezine.com. Take you right to it. We do a podcast every Sunday, a video cast on Sundays, actually, that people can watch or listen to it later, anytime in the future. It's up on iTunes. You can search for Lovecraft E-Zine podcast.
And I know you're on Facebook.
Yep, on Facebook.
You're on Twitter. And you're on Twitter, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You got a Facebook, type in Lovecraft E-Zine. It should bring you right to it. So.
Go!
So, yeah, thank you for having me on.
Well, glad we got you on, Mike. I hope you and your family feel better, and we keep us in the loop, man. We'll have to get you on again sometime. I've had a long week myself, so I can certainly understand. We'll see everybody next week with Christopher Garantano with the Montauk Chronicles. Everybody have a good weekend. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Take care, Mike. Take care, Wham.
Feel better. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Healed in the name of Lovecraft. All right, good night. Bye-bye.
person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
Hello, you're listening to United Public Radio. I'm Joe Montaldo, host of News on the Flip Side. Check us out every Saturday night, 6 to 9 p.m. Central Time.
You are invited to the Quantum Leap Let Light Unite show every Friday night on United Public Radio Network from 9 to 10 p.m. Pacific Time, 12 to 1 a.m. Eastern Time, with your spiritual warrior goddess, Kathy Bilski. Kathy will share all the old truths the Illuminati tries to keep secret. Kathy also gives you the opportunity to join in with planetary healing light work that will help us manifest World Enlightenment 2016. So let's get high and fly into new possibilities. So join Kathy every Friday night on UPRN, the Quantum Leap Let Light Unite show. A very powerful happening.
Hello, this is Angela Thomas with a message about living life to the fullest. As a psychic clairvoyant, I often give insights to one's career path, financial situation, or relationship. Whether one is happy or not in their current situation, where he or she is right now is an important part of learning valuable lessons that can lead to fulfilling one's life purpose. If I can offer you